Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back. I'm Aceface and I'm here for Twisted Dice to bring you some more Tyranid tactics goodness. So thank you very much for coming along. We really do appreciate it. And if you haven't already, do me a favour and hit that subscribe button. Do it now. That's right, you. I'm looking at you. We're fast approaching our 10,000 subscribers and we've got some really big, exciting plans that are going to reward you guys for being such mega bosses. So please, if you haven't already, do hit that subscribe button. Do it right now. Do it. Do it now. But anyway, thank you for joining us. There's loads of other cool stuff that you can get involved in and all the details are in the description below. You can become part of our Patreon service and that is where this video came from, because we ask our patrons regularly what you would like us to cover, and one of the requests that we had through our specific Tyranid chat group within our Patreon service, one of the requests was Trigon tactics. So what I said, no, Trygons are rubbish, we're not doing Trigon tactics. No, I didn't say that. I said yes, of course, I'm crazy and we'll try and make those big, beautiful, almost swore, but I will not, models work, because they are one of the most stunning models within the Tyranid range. But let's be honest, you don't see them on the table. You never see them on the table. Why do you not see them on the table? Because they're just not very good. But can we make them work in 9th edition? Are they that bad? Yeah, they're that bad. Let's try and make them work. No, they're really that bad. Let's make them work today. So, you want to take your Trygon because you've got it in your Start Collecting box set. That's right, because that's where they come from that Start Collecting box set. And if you've got one of those, you want to take a Trygon, but I've built it as a Morlock. You want to take a Trygon! So we're going to go with Trygons. So we're going to talk about Trygons. We're also going to talk about Trigon Primes. They're very, very similar. There's not a lot of differences. And how you can take these guys and make them work. Now, I've been looking at this thing all morning to try and make these boys work. And actually, I kind of think they're not that bad. I'm going to tell you. I've not fielded them in 9th edition yet, so a lot of this is very theory hammer, but I am going to try using them. Because actually, I think there's some potential there. There's some potential there. Not loads, but there is some potential there. So, the Trygon itself, let's talk about kind of why it's slightly problematic. Now, this is a guy that actually points efficiency, they're not too bad. The Trygons are coming in around about 130, something like that, without me double checking it. And then your Trigon Primes coming around 170. What do they come with? Well, they are a big 12 wound big monster. They're very difficult to hide because they're huge. They've got 12 wounds and unfortunately they only have a toughness 6 profile, which is a really big problem for them. They have a 3-up save, they have no invulnerable save, and they do deteriorate, which again is a big problem for them. But to be brutally honest, that's not so much the big problem, because if you're shooting at a Trygon, it probably dies pretty quickly and you haven't got to worry about it. So there you go, because everything has lots of AP and it's going to kill it. So there we go. So that's probably not the problem. But yeah, so they are something that is going to die relatively quickly. They're not particularly tough. Now, on the other hand, can they deliver some damage? Yes, they can. So their scything talons do a d6 damage, which means that there is some potential there for them doing quite a lot of damage. They also hit on freeze in combat, which is not too bad, and unlike some of the other big monsters within the Tyranid Codex. The problem is they do deteriorate, and when they deteriorate, that 3+ is going to get considerably worse. That's a problem. The other problem is they are strength 7, they're not strength 8. And their monstrous talons do not make them a +1 strength, which means that quite often they are going to be wounding things on 3s and not 2s. That again takes those maths down and makes those hits not as effective, because when you've got one of these big boys, you need to make sure that those hits are going to get through and you're going to do damage. What they do have is they do have quite a lot of attacks. They have 7 attacks. They have 6 on their profile. They get another one because they have 2 sets of monstrous talons, which is quite good. And they are going to re-roll. We're going to re-roll ones to hit, which again is quite nice. So you've got something that when it gets there, it's going to hit fairly effectively, and it will have the potential of doing quite a lot of damage. Those talons are -3, which is, again, quite tasty. So in a nutshell, you say, well, these guys are actually okay. Well, the problem is they are, when they get in, afterwards, if they are managing to do their damage, they're going to then die relatively quickly afterwards because they're not particularly tough. And if they don't manage to see off what they're attacking, which there's a good chance they won't because they're not wounding on 2s, they are then going to die afterwards. So look, you're always talking with Tyranids quite a lot of the time around trading, and you always want to be trading up. You want to be throwing something in that does some damage and does enough damage for it, so when it dies, it's still done something that's very, very useful. With the Trygons, they're quite often in a position where they're not doing that, and that's where they end up falling out of favour and you don't end up taking them. So what tricks can we do to make these guys better? Well, first of all, they do have a rule that allows them to kind of deep strike. So they burrow up out of the ground 9 inches away from your opponent. And that means that you've got a chance, right, to get these guys at least into combat before they die. So that's a good thing. You always want to be using that. So tactic rule number 1 is if you're using these guys, you're always deep striking them. You are not starting them on the board. Now, they're not slow. They move like 9 inches, so they're pretty quick, but you never, ever putting them on the board. You are deep striking these guys in every single day of the week. That's what you need to do. So these guys are bringing them in. They do have a special rule, which is called Subterranean Assault, I believe. I think that's right. And what that means is they can leave a little hole and allow your troops to pop up from there. In the olden days, people were potentially doing that with what they used to call devil gaunts, which is termagants with devourers. If you're still doing that, stop doing that. Stop doing that. It's not very good. Okay, so the problem with it is the termagants with the devourers are too expensive, and the guns are not that great. So you've got quite a lot of shots. It will deal with little squishy stuff that will die relatively easy. Well, that's wonderful. That's amazing. But these guys don't hit very effectively. They don't wound very effectively. They don't kill very effectively, and they're too many points. So do not take them. They're not very good. If you want to take mass mount shots, stick the Devourers on a Hive Tyrant or a Carnifex, which is higher strength. It's gonna hit more effectively and it will kill more effectively. Don't take Devil Gaunts, they do not work. I'm really, really sorry, guys. I'm gonna break it to you. They don't work. They used to work a little bit in the old days. They don't work anymore. Things will just shake those shots off and you'll find that you've got a lot of expensive dead Gaunts very, very soon after. Don't take them. So the only thing you're probably gonna wanna take to come up out of those tunnels is potentially a buffed unit of warriors. Now, that's not the worst idea ever. It is a way of getting your warriors into the action pretty quick. There's not a bad tactic, without doubt. Problem is, with those warriors, you probably want those warriors near a prime. The prime can't come up in those tunnels. So, you know, there's some swings and roundabouts there. I think that in the old days, you might well have taken that as a deployment feature for your army with the Trygons. I'm not so sure you do that anymore because with the ability to kind of outflank so many things and the smaller boards, I just don't think that's probably why you're going to take these guys. Why you are going to take these guys is to get them into combat. And as we've said, when they get in combat, there is the opportunity for them to do quite a bit of work. So, some other little tips. So what we do to make these work? So first of all, you're always going to want to take these guys with adrenal glands. Never ever take them without. So if you've taken them without, then you've made a mistake because it is a 5-point upgrade you want to take every single time. What does that do? Well, it gives you a +1 to your charge. That's huge because suddenly that is a 8 to charge rather than a 9. So these guys are sometimes going to make it. And when they make it, we know that they can potentially do a little bit of damage. So always take that. I would also very much consider taking Toxin Sacs because, again, what you want to make sure is if these guys get in, you want to make sure that they do some damage. If they don't do any damage, then you've wasted all those points anyway. So let's try and stack a little bit of advantage in them. So give them Toxin Sacs. Absolutely give them Toxin Sacs. 100%. Give them Toxin Sacs. So that's 15 points. You're going to add on to that, but it's worth doing. Every single day of the week, it's worth doing. Now, what we need to talk about now is how we're going to take these guys. So, as far as what Hive Fleet. So from a Hive Fleet point of view, these guys fit very differently from some of the other units that we talk about. Some of the more competitively units within the Tyranid Codex. These guys, you want to take these guys in Behemoth. Now, I will caveat by saying, yeah, you could take them in Leviathan as well. Leviathan is a great kind of all-fitting Hive Fleet, and it's a good one, you know, if you're taking a mixture of different units. It's very, very good, particularly with the Trigon Prime, because you know it's always going to have that additional save laid in, which can make it a little bit more survivable. There's also a stratagem within Jormungandr, which means that you can, you know, again, do some fun stuff with that tunneling. But again, I don't necessarily think that's the way to go with them. The way to go with them is Behemoth. And the reason why that is because that's going to give them the opportunity to re-roll their charge. And that's what you want to do, because these guys are a combat monster and that's where you need them. So what you're trying to do with these guys is absolutely maximize the opportunity for these guys to get into combat. Because if they don't get into combat, you've wasted all those points, 100% wasted all those points. So you have to gambit for that's what you're going with them. So that's what you need to do. Also, with Behemoth, there's some other cool stuff. So with Behemoth, you've got the ability to have the relic, which is going to make those talons into 3 damage. So they're the funny scythes. They're really good. They also can give you exploding hits as well. Again, they're making the Trygons really good. So that's only going to work on a Trigon Prime. You can't put on a Trygon. It has to go on a character. But Trigon Prime with the Behemoth relic is actually quite tasty. You're then stacking that with the Toxin Sacs, which is really good, and your adrenal glands. So you're having an 8-inch rerollable charge. Suddenly, this guy, when he gets in, he can make quite a mess. You're always going to have this problem is you're going to need to pick your targets. Don't stick them in against something with a really reliable invuln save. So, you know, you stick these guys in against blade guards, you know, sitting in the middle. They're probably just going to slice your Trigon apart pretty quick and laugh you all the way to the bank. But certain targets, these guys will be quite effective at chewing through. Again, don't put them in against big toughness 8 stuff. That's going to be a problem for them. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be hitting them against toughness 7 is kind of okay. But anything under toughness 7, they're really good against. But not toughness 8. Don't put them against toughness 8. Don't do it. Please don't do it. And good invuln saves they struggle with as well. So there's a lot of stuff they struggle with, but if they've got the right targets, they can be quite good. So that's one way of doing it. There's also some cool stuff, and I'm looking over at my notes. There's some cool stuff in the Blood of Baal that will also improve their ability to be a little bit more effective. So you have a relic that also makes them better at charging. So the relic is it replaces their adrenal glands. So rather than it be a +1, it is you roll 3 dice and then you take the highest. That statistically is going to be better than your +1, particularly if you're taking them in Behemoth and then you're re-rolling that charge. It's very, very good, which means they're almost certainly going to get into combat. So that's good. Also, there is a relic for adrenal glands. Not adrenal glands, I've already said adrenal glands, for Toxin Sacs. And that means that on a 5+, they do a mortal wound instead of the additional damage from a normal Toxin Sac. That's also good as well, because mortal wounds is going to get through that slightly harder stuff and make them a little bit more effective. So that's really, really good. Also, as far as the adaptive physiology, you've got of course, the 5+ invuln save don't really degrade. That's great. If you haven't got that on something that's more valuable, which is probably going to be a shooting unit, and you have gone more combat-based, because you're crazy, and I salute you because you're a boss, but you've gone more combat, then this is a great one. Obviously, that's one of our best adaptive physiologies. Also, Murderous Size. I don't think it's called that. It might be called Size. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, whatever it is, that's really good. It gives you +1 strength, it gives you +1 damage, it gives you +1 AP. It's amazing, because then that does make their scythes then strength 8, which is great. It also makes them damage D6 +1, which is good. Or if you've taken the relic, which yes you can do, then they would be 3 damage plus +1, so there'll be 4 damage, so that would be really, really good. So there's loads of cool stuff there. And then the +1 AP making them AP -4 is not bad. The AP3 is really all you kind of need because you're going to put them on the invuln save. So, but yeah, so how would I take these guys? Well, first of all, I would, if I'm going to take them, I'd probably take 3 of them. That sounds ridiculous, but yes, if you're going to do it, I think the best way is you go damage saturation, target saturation. You're going to use these. Where do they sit in the cap system? They are, you know, they're an aggravate unit. I think they're still not a power unit. They're quite expensive for that role, but if they do their job and can get in there and, you know, be an irritation, mean that they have to be dealt with, they can still provide quite an effective role. There's the opportunity, I suppose, making them more a power unit by stacking enough upgrades on them for them to be quite effective. But I still think against certain armies, they're going to come unstuck. They will get out-combated and they will get out-shot. But that's probably where they sit. But yes, I would take 3. I would take 1 Trigon Prime. I would take 2 Trygons. They give you a light bit of shooting. And then they give the ability to charge and do some damage. I would probably take them in a dedicated detachment with an HQ, and I would take them as Behemoth to make sure that I have a pretty good opportunity to make those charges. Also, because I'm going to have them all popping out of the ground, I'm going to make my opponent really consider where he's deploying, because I'm going to be hitting him on potentially several fronts, and I'm going to be making him second guess his kind of movement and his deployment, which is what I want to do. I want to mess with his head, and I want to make sure that I am pushing him into areas where he doesn't want to go. If I just do it with 1, then he's got an opportunity of kind of playing around that quite easily. If I've got 3 and I've got other threats within my army, then I'm really kind of starting to mess with his mind. I'm telling him all the amounts of damage that I can do, all these huge volumes of attacks, and I'm trying to scare him with these huge, great big monsters. That's my tactic, that's my play, but I'm very much going to put quite a lot of my eggs in this basket, and I'm going to try and make these guys stick and be really aggressive, really nasty, really in their face, and hopefully I get a little bit of luck, because you're going to need a little bit of luck. But yeah, that's how I'm going to play them. That's how I'm going to gear them up. Will they work? I'm going to give it a go, guys, and I'm going to let you know. Let me know if you've been using Trygons and you've had some fun and some success with them. Are they competitive? I don't really think they are. I think ultimately they're just not survivable enough, and they don't probably do enough effective damage, which just sounds scary, seeing that they do actually have quite a lot of dangerous stuff. But I think really for the size of these beasts, they need to be a strength 8 base, and they need to be at least a toughness 7, probably a toughness 8, and they need to have an invulnerable save. But maybe I'm asking for a little bit too much. Let me know in the comments down below. But this is a long video, guys. I've talked quite a lot about Trygons, and they're pretty useless. But if you've hung around this far, I really, really do appreciate it. Let me know in the comments if you stuck to the end, because you're a mega boss. And until the next video, I'm Aceface, and I'll see you crazy fools later. Bye for now.